there, YouTube flock. This is Siegs, and today we are discussing the end of OP13. The season officially ends today, as tomorrow EB03 releases with the new heroine set, which will shake up the meta and will add new support to pre-existing decks that will come into new light, I hope. And I will definitely be practicing those decks and playing them and testing them to see how that goes. But I just want to talk about my experience with OP13, what it meant to me, and everything from start to finish since day one. So let's dive into it. So, the start of OP13, even before it started, we all had a good look at Emu and all the things that Emu was gonna do. We saw that Emu was able to cheat out an excessive, ridiculous amount of cards with 4 Dawn, essentially. We saw that Emu had pretty much infinite in-game grind with just looping the 10 cost Gorose again and again and again. We saw it was super defensive with really strong defensive cards like Never Existed and whatever the Ginkgo one's called, the world's equilibrium cannot be maintained, or something like that. We just call it Ginkgo in Japanese. And the fact that you can get free blockers every turn is just brutal, on top of one of the blockers just giving you a card. So everyone thought Emu would dominate. We thought this would be like the uncontested, nothing can touch this. I was literally discussing with my friend, this is going to be the most messed up format because it's just going to be Emu. Like, it's going to be like 100% Emu all the time. But it turns out that Roger in Ace is a pretty good counter to all these blockers that Emu can have. And you just ignore all the blockers. You make this giant wall. So yeah, you make a huge new gate wall. You play the 1 life game. So this is like something I had to learn through experience is like OP13 is all about just sitting at 1 life the whole game. And then whoever like goes all in, goes for it kind of thing. And if you miss your timing, because everybody has blockers, right? So you can kind of control when you're going to take that 1 last life. And so attacking for leader was always is very risky. And like maybe if you're trying to go for a game, you'll attack like 6k into their leader and just see if they'll take the life. If they do, you just drop your Roger and go all in, whatever. But of course they would normally just not take it. So the kind of annoying point of OP13 is the 1 life game where everybody's staying at 1 life and they're just like, who's going to take it? Of course, Ace now has tools in the deck to kind of force their own life, which will force an end game. And we'll kind of talk about that later when I review my personal list again. But yeah, Roger was the way that Ace is able to beat Emu along with the Mirror and like other decks in general. So it turns out Roger is pretty good. But having low life and a few resources at the start made Ace pretty susceptible to Zoro and other kind of like rush style decks. You get large consecutive hits. You get your you get your Marco rested and demand mass resources to defend these. And when you're starting with only 3 life, you don't have a whole lot of resources. Ace gets resources through using leader effect and things getting KO'd. However, if you're on curve going second as Ace, so say you put out your 4 Dawn, you got your 4 Dawn Marco, you don't have it on your leader. So if you're taking a life, you're not getting your leader effect off, effectively making this like pretty bad. Right, and if you're off curve, you're going like 1 turn slower. It's like not as good. Though actually, Zoro in OP13 prefers to go second now sometimes. I guess it depends on the person, but going second is not nearly as bad now because they can drop Law into Tashigi, which is also just like really crazy. And Zoro can of course just rush your blockers for the win. You have these 2 giant, massive 12k new gates. Yeah, you just rest both of them with the Dead Man's Game card and just put the rest of the Dawn on leader. Very, very technical play for Zoro is to put all Dawn on leader and just swing like 5 times. So the holy Triforce that is the meta formed with these 3 essentially being on top. So if I can undo this and we go over here, it basically was these guys on top. It's basically these guys on top. People can argue that Zoro's like maybe not as good, but I think Zoro can actually have a pretty good play like matchup into all these guys, which is pretty much what we've decided. So Ace ended up being seen as the actual top tier deck. So it was seen for a while that Ace is the top. Ace is the peak. This is the #1 deck. So Ace at that. So it started like kind of like this. And then it became kind of like this for a while. People were like, oh, Ace, yeah, buddy, Ace is the top one. Then, because everybody assumed that Ace is the top leader, everyone started teching against Ace with things such as Stussy in the Emu and Red Rock. This is Red Rock. It's not the same thing. Not the same thing. So with that, UP Luffy started coming back pretty hard. This also happened due to the release of Promo Roger, which I talk about down here. And also other decks that could play Stussy also started to rise up, which means that Sabo started kind of coming into play here. So I would say it was kind of something like this, and then these guys started coming up. Okay. And then also mirrored techs, yeah, such as Atmos and Ace to bounce the 4-cost Marco. Atmos started becoming more and more popular because everybody just hated the mirror into Ace, and Ace being able to go second in the mirror is such a huge advantage that you kind of need a way to counter that. And a lot of people are using Atmos just to bounce the 4-cost Marco, making it kind of just a pain for your opponent because they just have nothing on the board the whole time. So they play Marco, you play Atmos, bounce the Marco. They play Jozu to bounce your guy. Then you play Jozu to bounce their guy. And now they're at 8 Dawn, and they can, of course, play their event card to put out Newgate. But if they do, they have no characters on the board to put the rest of Dawn onto. It doesn't feel nearly as good. And then you could even respond to that by red rocking it or something, right? So it made not going second not as painful. Okay. These techs started an emergence of decks that could use the text to compete. Yeah, so as I said, you enter Sabo, the UP Luffy, and Purple Luffy for Emu. So this was an interesting one. Purple Luffy started peeking in a little bit because of Magellan. If you guys remember what Magellan does. Can I find Magellan here? So the Magellan from, I think it was EB03. Yeah, who, when you on play, you minus a Dawn for you and your opponent. And what this would do is it would make your Emu unable to play their, whatever it was, their 10 cost guy on curve, like if they were going a second, which was really annoying. And this also was a very big counter to Roger, who was also getting more strong at the time, because Roger's effect, if you have 9 Dawn or less on your field, give this leader minus 2k, and then if at the start of your Dawn phase, you must put 1 Dawn onto your leader if you're not full Dawn. So using Magellan against Roger basically forces Roger to put a Dawn on leader next turn, meaning you cannot drop a 10 cost character. So meaning if you have Shanks in hand, you can't play Shanks. So this was seen as a pretty decent counter to both Emu and to Roger. I've only fought against it once in one of my tournaments, and I just kind of like raffle stomped it. So it's not very effective. I mean, it made me put out my Newgate 1 turn later. So when I was at 8 Dawn, or should have been at 8 Dawn, he put a Magellan on me, so I was only at 7 Dawn. And this made me just like play Jozu or something, but it wasn't that big of a deal because they weren't really playing other strong things. They did play Bond Clay, which Bond Clay is kind of annoying against Ace because it becomes 12k with all your 12k Newgates flying around. So either way, so this became more popular. Just be aware that this is also like a thing that can occur. And also we had like the rush decks come out. So Bella Betty, Rayleigh, like you started kind of seeing these decks popping up here and there. I fought a Bella Betty. Oops, so Rayleigh just kind of disappeared. Man, I like this site, but like it always closes these like, things. Okay, Rayleigh. So these kind of like more rush style decks started popping up. I fought one Bella Betty in one of my flagships. I was very lucky and was able to beat Bella Betty. I fought another Bella Betty in my regional qualifiers, whatever it's called, the qualifier match.
and I actually lost ability because I had literally no counter in my hand. It was pretty rough. Luffy, I think at the very beginning of OP13 was around, and everybody thought like you could put the 9-cost Zoro on Luffy, and it was actually quite strong. It turned out to kind of not be the case in the end, and this deck basically fell off. Maybe it's like you see it here and there sometimes. So it still exists, but not really. And then with the release of Promo Roger, we saw a rise in Roger himself, and UP Luffy became even stronger. And it became kind of something like this, I guess. Actually, this would be lower. Yeah, I think this, something like that is probably about correct. Yeah, maybe this. Yeah. Okay. Then, so with the viewing of the 3-on-3 championship matches, which I did live stream, I did not. Did I make a video of it? No, I didn't make a video of it, so maybe you guys didn't see that, but I did do a live stream of this. I believe next time there's a championship, I will also live stream that and then actually put it out as a video. Maybe as like one of the only people who can actually understand Japanese and translate to you what they're saying. In the 3-on-3, we saw that Emu was in all 16 decks. All of them had an Emu, showing that the pros feel Emu is overall the best deck. And I would personally agree with this, since Emu allows for a lot of high-level decisions and play than most decks in the format right now. Like where Ace kind of just plays on curve, they're big guys, and Zoro just kind of stacks all done on leader. I mean, there's some like little differences you can do here and there, but the amount of choices and decisions that Emu has to make is very high. And I would consider it like a very high level deck. And there's not really a clear weakness to Emu. Like you could argue that this is like a weakness. It's not really. Like not really. You know, dropping Shanks with this or the new gates with Ace. Yeah, it sucks. It's tough to deal with, but you have Stushi, you know. You still have ways to get around this. And at the end of the day, even a 7k leader, all your characters are 7k when you're Emu. Like you just attack into all these guys, even if they're at these higher attack points. So there's not really, I can't really see a weakness. And because of the general ability of having characters unremovable from the field will likely prove to be a gatekeep, will likely prove to gatekeep a lot of decks moving forward for the foreseeable future. So even decks that should be strong or seem to be strong, like I would say like maybe Boa in the new set, or other control decks like Marco, remember Marco? Like basically cannot be played right now, Lucci. Because like if you end up playing against Emu, you just kind of lose by default. Like there's really nothing you can do. It just kind of sucks. So I think Emu existing is still going to gatekeep a lot of decks going forward, which is kind of brutal. So I would say at the end of OP13, this is kind of like all the decks I saw personally tournament wise. I'd say every other deck is almost irrelevant. You could maybe argue that Bonnie was kind of around a little bit. So you could say like Bonnie was maybe over here somewhere. I don't think this is there was really anything else. And if you look at, so this is gumgum.dg, you can kind of see some like recent tournament winner results. Refreshing, we have Emu, Luffy, Emu, Zoro, Ace, Zoro, Emu, Zoro, Zoro, Emu, Zoro, Emu, Ace. Pudding, oh yeah, and Koala. Actually, these two won championship. This is interesting. Let's open these up. Koala being another leader who I think can use Stushi well, so maybe that's why she exists. Yeah, you can see 3 Stushis in that deck list. So you can see decks that kind of come up with these like counters to things that Ace can do with this, and even like, you know, the Robin to reduce hand cards, this to regenerate life, things like that. So I guess, yeah, basically anything that can just run these counters is really good. And I think yellow in general, being able to kind of trash life, we have the Linian here that trashes life, is also quite strong against Ace, because trashing Ace's life does not result in you getting to use leader effect. And you only have 3 life, which really sucks. I need to regenerate some life. Stop, Valley. What's up, buddy? Yeah, man. Regenerating life feels really good with this deck. Linlin is a monster of a card. Everybody hates it. I hate playing against it. I played against a few puddings online, never in tournaments, and it's never been that bad. But I can see, like, if you chain Linlins, it's rough, buddy. It's rough.
So this is what I feel. I think Emu will have staying power in OP 13 and beyond. So I do think Emu is probably the #1 deck still. I think decks like Ace and Zoro, maybe even almost specifically Ace, is going to have some issues going forward due to the essence of what EB03 gives to older decks and to the fact that it's just being teched against so much. What's up, Blue Lock? Stay a while and listen. Stay a while and listen. Brought to you by Chocolate Mint Beer. That was a funny sound. ASMR. Aw, yeah. So OP13 for me personally, this is my first time not only placing top 8 in a flagship, but also winning first place in a flagship. So if you guys don't remember, this is my top 8 Zoro. Wow, look at him. He's like, I have a sword in my mouth. I ain't afraid to use it, boy. And then we have the first place Luffy card. My first time not only getting top 8, but also actually winning a flagship. So this was a pretty big deal for me. Personally. Cargo Booty. It was also my first time placing in a championship qualifier match, and my championship event will be November 29th. So please look forward to a video of that. I'll definitely be filming the experience of the day and making kind of like a blog format of like the area and what went on and stuff like that. Never have I ever done something like that before. Because until now, this is my first time playing a meta deck. Because until now, I've just played leaders that I like and that seemed fun, like Marco, Yamato, Blue Yellow Nami, Boa, Rayleigh. Never the top decks, but like, you know, fun decks, strong decks here and there, but never the top decks. Ace was a lucky overlap for me, being a top meta pick while also being Whitebeard Pirates, because I love OEIG so much. I think Whitebeard is the coolest fucking character in all of One Piece. Why'd you give Zoro a cowboy accent? Because he got them there sword in his mouth. I don't know, man. Good question. Man, I don't know. I'm drinking chocolate mint beer. That's damn good. So also winning the flagship gave me the courage to try and make my first One Piece TCG related YouTube video, which probably led you to watching this, everybody on YouTube. And thank you to everyone who has supported me so far on YouTube because of this. I personally enjoyed this meta the most so far because of this, and even though the meta seems very dull to most people, I think it's actually pretty decent in variety compared to previous metas, where more than 50% of the decks played were the same one. Like the law meta or UP Luffy meta, or I think what else did we have? We had Sakazuki meta. There's been Lucci. No, not Lucci was never that high, but there's been some metas where it's just been like stupid. This one became more of like a triangle. Like you can kind of see the breakdown here. These are definitely the top 3, but the top 3 take like, you know, 60-ish%, 65% of like the top. But then we have like kind of like a healthy like scattering of like, we have Luffy coming back up. We have Roger, who kind of came up. These both came up with the promo Roger, Rayleigh and Bello Betty, wherever she's at there as like kind of your rush option. Sabo is kind of like this like all-rounder deck that didn't end up being top, but just as like really strong in general. And Bonnie just kind of being like a not as good Zoro choice, really. I think it's just like a not as good Zoro. And then you have that Pudding here and the Koala here who happen to somehow top one of those events, but everything here is only 1%. So yeah, so I'd say the top has some variety, but I'd say the overall variety is maybe less, unfortunately. Looking to run Ace on Western release, I'm leaning to 2 9-cost Whitebeards and 0 tax beards. Thoughts? I'll get into my like finalized Ace deck list kind of like after this portion, and then we can definitely go and discuss what I think and what like the pros are kind of are running themselves to. So I'll definitely get to that. I'll definitely get to that. So talking about EB03 and beyond. So EB03 comes out on Saturday in Japan, which is 2 days from now. So a lot of decks that get stronger with EB03 have good potential against Ace by having easy removal for the 10 cost Nugget and being able to remove life with effects, basically getting around leader effects and kind of like removing our very few lives that we have fairly early on. So the viability of Ace will depend on how consistent these decks can also win against other top meta picks such as Emu, and super control decks such as Bo will likely not get that far in this regard because of Emu, until like maybe new Boa, where it's more about like removing life of the leader and you kind of like just go all in with the unblockable event afterwards. So talking about these new leaders, I like Zero Attack Spirits working well in my builds. Yeah, I think a lot of people are actually removing the attack spirits, to be honest. Looking at the new EB03 support, we have Vivi as the new leader. We have Perona having really good support and coming back in and of course, Perona being a black deck can also just use Jushi. We have these 3 cards for Nami. And I think all of these actually just damage your opponent. Yeah, so all of these can just take your opponent's life, with Robin actually having the unique ability to actually end the game on KO if your opponent decides to KO this while they have 0 life. Because it says specifically you may deal 1 damage to your opponent. It doesn't say they take a life, it doesn't say they trash a life, it says you damage your opponent. This can win you the game if your opponent's at 0 life. I think this is the first time that we've had a card like this. And then we have this search card that just gives you the consistency. So this is pretty insane. And then we also have Yamato and we have Law. And then these ones are going to actually help out the Yamato deck with this Law specifically, who can also bring out this Yamato. So you can do this, get a life, put out this Law who puts out this Yamato while bouncing like one of your searchers or something like that. It's a pretty crazy combo. All of these leaders all of these leaders also have the ability to get rid of your Newgate, with Vivi being able to minus 2k to your Newgate and then just drop this Shanks, which just KOs it instantly. Okay. Also, you can just play Red Rock. So Vivi can just really control you. This can play Jushi. Nami can play Red Rock, and Yamato can just basically rest. Can just rest your blockers with things like Hody Jones. Yeah, because of these leaders. I think I discussed this here. So Perona has the ability to spam the board. If you see this new card here, you can, what is it? So you rest 1 Dawn. So you pay 8 Dawn. So you play a 6 cost card and a 4 cost card. The 6 cost card is the Moria, who summons another card, and then the 1 cost card, or sorry, the 4 cost card is something that can also bring out something. I think you can actually spam. I forget the exact combo, but this card can give you 4 bodies, one of which is a blocker. I think maybe 2. I'm not sure, but that's pretty crazy value. It's almost like having Moria back in the deck with this 1 card, which also doubles as a counter card. So on top of being able to do all of this, you can still play Jushi. Oh yeah, this card. It's a blocker card, and then I think you can summon something. Yeah, you can summon a 2 cost from your trash. So this will be the 4 cost that you play with this. So, and I think the other one is there is a Moria. 6 cost this guy. So you can also play a cost 4 or less from your trash. So it'd be a 6, a 4, a 4, and a 2, I believe. And I think the 2, there's like I forget the dog's name. It's like there's like a 2 cost dog thing that's also this guy. Yeah. Oh, it's Cerberus. Yeah. So you can also summon this as a free blocker with this new Perona. It's played rested, but it's still like, you know, your opponent has to attack into it. Like, it's crazy. So there's a lot of potential here, and they can play Sushi, which is nice. Life Burn by Purple Yellow Crocodile might be interesting. Then Okama away into the Yorniko. That is smart. That is smart. Okama away into Robin. You force the game to be over. That is smart. So yeah, there's a lot of potential with Life Burn, and like your opponent. Yeah, it's true. What would your opponent do? Man, that is smart. I gotta write that one down. That sounds very fun. Okama way, for people who don't know, is you force your opponent to attack into a target of your choice. So you can switch the target from whatever they attacked into this Robin, just KO it, and then your opponent loses the game. If they're at 0 life, by the way. That's pretty crazy. That's a pretty crazy combo. I like the way you think. I like the way you think. Then yeah, Yamato can be very aggressive, rest your blockers, and replenish their own life with their new cards that they have. Yamato having double attack and potentially banish can really be hard against a 3 life leader. Nami can both have strong removal, can trash life, and also replenish their life with various endgame options. A deck I will definitely be testing going forward. I think Nami is the one I'm most excited to be testing, actually, because I played Nami before this, and I think the new support really helps Nami out. This seems very strong to me. Then Vivi, as I mentioned before, can KO a Newgate while establishing a 12k body with Shanks, or just use Red Rock to remove your... So these are like all ways that all these decks can basically just remove your Newgates or just ignore them completely. So all of these actually have potential against Ace, and I'll be testing all of them in the future. But yeah, this new support generally doesn't apply to any of the top current meta decks, so I'm excited to see how the meta changes going forward. Basically, all the new cards do not really touch these top 3 decks. I think Zoro gets like a couple new things that appear. I think, hold on. I think Zoro gets, there's like another Quina, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's not very good though, and it's all right. Yeah, so not really any support. I don't really see clear counterplay if you can get them to 0. Yeah, it's true. They would just have to not attack. I guess the only counterplay would be attacking 7. Because Robin is 8. So if your opponent keeps attacking 7, you can just you can avoid the 8k. So I mean there is some counterplay to it, but I mean like you're really limiting what they can do. So that's also interesting, right? Although most life burn characters stop working at 3 life, right? Apart from Yellow Kid. And plus these new support ones, I think she works. Life burn. Yeah, you're probably right, besides like Mom, but you can't play Mom in that deck. But you can still, yeah, but you would use this if they're at 3 life, burn that card. This one burns their life, I think. Oh, they just take it. So they put it into their hand, and then you play, then you just play, you play your kids after that, and then you have your Robin to end game if you need to. I guess. Yeah, so I mean, that's my thoughts for OP13. I think there's some really good looking fun decks that seem strong on paper. I have to test to see how it'll work. And the big question will be, can these decks touch Emu? If not, then they're probably not going to be in there. No love for Purple Reiju. Reiju does have a new card, actually. What did Reiju get? Yeah, this one. What does this do? If your leader, oh, this is for Sanji though. If your leader is Sanji, activate the main effect of this. And this is specifically for the Sanji leader. Is there anything for Reiju specifically? This one? Oh, here we go, Jerema. If the number of Dawn cards in your field is equal to or less than the number of your opponent's field, and you only have characters of the type Jerema, add up to 2 Dawn from the Dawn. Ooh, that's pretty good. This is like a Shinohodo Oishi. This is like a to die for effect for ramping Dawn. That's pretty good. The only reason I haven't really talked about Reiju so much is that I haven't seen her in so long. But Reiju is also a good deck. Reiju is also quite good. Reiju can pull off some crazy combos, that's for sure. But this is for the Sanji deck. I don't think Sanji's gonna be good as long as we have Emu, unfortunately. Try to backtrack you, but you said you play Rayleigh. Wasn't he the meta counter to Green Zoro? He was, but I don't think he was. Oh, he did end up being top, I guess. You're right. I just never played. Sorry, I should be more clear. I never played Rayleigh in a flagship. So I never played Rayleigh in a tournament or anything that was like competitively relevant. I played Rayleigh like against my friends. But whenever I went to a flagship, I always played Marco. So it was kind of like my fault that I didn't play these meta decks. But yeah, you're right. I did play Rayleigh kind of like when it was meta at the time. I just never used it in a meta capacity, I guess you could say. I always stuck with my Marco guns and just hoped I could get Marco on a flagship map, you know? All right. So that's all the discussion I have for you for today. Hope you will enjoy OP13 as much as I did, though it might be different in your neck of the woods when it starts. And I will definitely be enjoying the start of EB03, and I will be going card hunting tomorrow for the new heroine set to start my EB03 journey and see where that takes me. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and your support means the world to me. And I'll see you in the next one.